Retail in MENA is changing. There are new stores, new restaurants, new shopping centers. And today I'm going to talk with two experts from the region. I am really curious. I want to find out what brands are expanding both in and out of MENA, how consumers are changing, how shopping centers have evolved. I'm really excited to get into this and learn more about the region. And we're going to do it right now on Everything We Know About Retail. That's right. You're watching Everything We Know About Retail. It's the show where we tell all of you everything we know about retail. And we go live on LinkedIn, or you can check out any of our past episodes on our YouTube archive. Go to this website, everythingweknow.show. Hit subscribe, and you'll be in the loop for every episode that we release now and in the future. So, my name is James Cook. I am coming live from Indiana, USA. I research retail and real estate for JLL, and I've got two guests joining me today from Dubai in the UAE. And hey, let's just get into it. Let's welcome our first guest. We've got Joseph Kerbaj here coming in live. You're coming live from Dubai. Joe, welcome to Everything We Know About Retail.
Hi, James. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast.
We're super excited to have you. So you're the director of retail consulting for MENA for JLL. You're advising clients for retail all around the region, right?
Yep. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So we got to start big picture because we got to remember we have people all over the world, some who are very familiar with the market, others who only know a little bit. So let's start us out big picture. How has retail evolved in the region?
Great. Hi, everyone. So I think first it's very important to give a bit of history on the retail industry and its evolution across the years in the Middle East, especially as you mentioned that the audience are from all over the world. In the region here, in the MENA region, retail destinations were all in the form of souks, like marketplaces, where everyone used to go for any shopping purposes, for spices, gold, fabric, clothing, for any shopping purposes to those souks. I think the local culture here always had a soft spot for these souks, and some of them are still very successful, like Souk Waqif in Qatar. So up until the beginning of the 1980s, it's when the first structured or organized community mall opened in Dubai, here in the UAE, where in the rest of the world it was way before that. And since then, shopping centers became one of the main entertainment, other than shopping, entertainment destinations for residents and visitors. So naturally, with the evolution of the GCC cities, shopping centers were more and more introduced in the markets. And in 2005, the Mall of the Emirates opened, and in 2008, the Dubai Mall, which is currently the biggest mall in the world. And these two malls were a big game changer to the whole industry in the region because they were the only super regional malls first, and their vision was different than all other projects before that, which had a big impact on triggering global retailers and brands to basically focus more on the region and expand into those markets. So within the expansion of these brands, almost, not to say 100%, almost all of these brands were under franchise agreements operated by companies that are owned by local families from the region, like Azadea Group and Dubai Holding, who brought Inditex, for example, Ashaya Group, who brought F&B concepts from the US, like Cheesecake Factory, and Chalhoub Group, who is a key player in the luxury industry and brand in the region, Al Hokair, and many, many others. And I think the main reasons behind going into this model, the franchise agreement model, is basically for these international brands to mitigate first the country risk and the operational risk, And because of the lower transparency back then and almost no knowledge of the region, and also because of the fact that it was actually difficult to find and assess local partners. You needed a local partner to operate in either KSA or UAE or other GCC countries. However, with the evolution of retail and evolution of those cities, uh, this is changing, and some brands now are choosing to directly operate or invest without being franchised. The main reason, I think, is because the region has proved itself to be a commercial, touristic, and attraction destination, which resulted in many business opportunity that attracted many Westerns and other expats to relocate here, like myself and many others in the region, and boosted tourism as well. Also, the retailers, through the franchise agreement, they were able to build a strong relationship with the landlords and the shopping centers, and they now have a strong knowledge of the region and the operational aspect of the business. And one more very important, actually, reason is the major events that are being held across the region, from Expo 2020, for example, in Dubai, the World Cup in Qatar, which is kicking off on Sunday, and the Future Investment Initiatives event in KSA, which all of these are promoting these countries on a global level. So I think, James, the main point here is that these global brands are seeing the huge opportunities in the whole region, especially now with the announcement of the different visions, which we will talk about in a bit.
So it's interesting in the story that you told there. It's sort of the region was late to start in terms of doing, big shopping centers and malls, but quickly became a world leader pretty fast. And
Yeah.
now it seems like it's a destination that a lot of international brands want to be getting into. What markets do they look at? What are the biggest retail markets in the region?
So from a sales perspective, and depending on the population of each country, I think KSA is the has the biggest share of retail sales. UAE is the second biggest, but UAE is more positioned now as a tourist destination. So you have more of tourism spent on retail versus Saudi Arabia, which is more of a local spend on retail. But both KSA and UAE are the biggest countries when it comes to retail, followed by Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and the other GCC countries.
Great. So UAE, that's where you're at, and which is where Dubai is, Dubai is the biggest city, right?
Abu Dhabi is the capital. Dubai is
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha. Well, Dubai, is the international destination that everybody knows
exactly.
about.
Yeah.
And then within Saudi Arabia, Riyadh is the biggest city. Are there any
Riyadh is,
other?
yeah,
Yeah.
Riyadh is the biggest city in KSA. It's the capital. Almost 9 million population compared to UAE, which is, I think all of UAE is 9 million compared to the Riyadh only, which is 9 million.
And
So
then Qatar.
Riyadh,
Yeah, go ahead.
Riyadh, Dubai, Abu Dhabi are the biggest cities in the GCC, and then followed by, I would say, Jeddah, the Eastern Province, and then Doha in Qatar, Manama in Bahrain, Kuwait City. Yeah, but the biggest, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Riyadh. Yeah.
And when you say GCC, what is that an acronym for?
It's the Gulf Cooperative Countries, which is I think 6 or 7 countries that have created this cooperation between each other. They're very friendly countries. It's the UAE, KSA, Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Well, Joe, I think we need to bring in our other guest, Alexis Marcoux-Varvatsoulis. I got your last name right?
Yes, you did. Well done, James.
Marcoux-Varvatsoulis. So, Alexis, you oversee food service consulting with JLL for the region. So basically, Joe's talking about retail. You're talking about how food works within retail, right?
That's absolutely correct, James. So what we do in a nutshell is we drive asset value by the use of F&B spaces, whether it's commercial
Got it.
shopping centers, whether it's airports, hotels, but also help expanding restaurant brands within the region as well.
Got it. So let's talk then about food, which is frankly, Alexis, my favorite topic. How important is food within retail, within mixed use in your region?
So in general, in the Middle East, but specifically in the GCC countries, food has always been very important. It's something that brings communities together, families together. It's a very social occasion. Therefore, food has always played a very important role within entertainment and social environments. As Joe was saying, when retail was expanding and evolving to what we find retail to be today, so did food and beverage. And what is quite interesting is that when these big malls started appearing, we found F&B to be around 10 to 15% of the total GLA. However, with the introduction of e-commerce, people could do their shopping without leaving the couch quite easily. So F&B started coming up quite strongly and going all the way up to 30-35% of a total GLA because it provided a social and an entertainment aspect into the shopping destinations, which people really grabbed onto. And we've seen that globally, in the US and in Europe, we've seen the exact same effect into F&B growing within the overall commercial GLA. However, in the Middle East, it's a little bit more important because it adds to that entertainment aspect and the social environment.
So food is entertainment in the Middle East.
Food is a social occasion and food is entertainment, absolutely.
All right. Well, if you're watching us live right now, feel free to type a question into the chat. We did have a comment. Joe Scott Cook, no relation to me, wanted to also mention that the Abu Dhabi Formula One is another way that the region is kind of on the national scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Formula One also they have a track in Bahrain, which I think is the first race of the Formula One, and Abu Dhabi is the last race of Formula One, and they also did one race in Jeddah in the historical district. It was an absolutely beautiful track that they did specifically for one race.
Oh, that's fascinating. I'm based near Indianapolis and I go by the Indy 500 track every once in a while. I don't personally know very much about racing, but it is a huge track. It is huge. So, Joe, you kind of touched on this. We talked about sort of the changing evolution of the retail. How are consumers changing, and how is retail in the region changing to meet those new demands from the consumer?
Yeah. So I think obviously similar to the global shifts in consumer trends and behavior, the MENA region is also witnessing this. Like Alexis mentioned, the growth of e-commerce and also the effect of COVID and the Gen Z consumer behavior in comparison to the previous generations, especially the millennials. All of these has big impact on the shopping centers, their tenant mixes, even the design and the overall strategies. We are actually being approached, especially in Saudi Arabia, every year by almost 10 operating shopping malls looking for support in redefining their positioning and tenant mix, not just to adapt to these changing consumer behavior and trends, but also giving the competitive and the visions of Saudi Arabia to stay competitive against the upcoming retail mega projects in the next 5 to 10 years. So, how are developers adapting to these changes? I think obviously the first reason is like all retail development, they are moving from the convenience and traditional oriented shopping to a more experience oriented shopping. the choosing concept, choosing of the tenants and the concept is now based on a different set of criteria compared to the way it was done before. And also, like, just to add on Alexis' point on the F&B, malls are redefining their strategies by definitely increasing the share of F&B. They're increasing entertainment and adding new concepts. They're bringing new to market concepts, but are already known within the local population because of people traveling and looking and shopping outside the region. Many local talents and entrepreneurs are being promoted here, which debuted on social media first, and now have already created a hype within the community. I think also they're putting much effort on the design, the look and feel of the mall. They're trying to increase dwell time and even adapting new common area strategies by increasing greenery, skylight, and digital screens. This might seem obvious to the rest of the world, but here, if you compare new malls to the old traditional malls, these are all new initiatives that are being implemented.
And I think we can go as far as to say that it's not just a shopping center anymore. It's a little bit of a lifestyle or an and entertainment center rather than really focusing on the shopping aspect of it.
It's funny. So many of the trends that you talk about, they're very similar to, what I talk about here in the US. Here's a question that came in from Vitor. When a brand comes from outside the country, outside the region, do they have to adapt the products? Do they have to adapt, say, the food? Maybe this is a good question for you, Alexis. Do they have to change the food in order to make it appealing?
So any brand going into any new market has to adapt, absolutely. With food, it's even more so because some cultures enjoy more spicy or more salty. They do have the preferences. However, what is quite interesting in the Middle East is that there's such a mix of culture and such a mix of nationalities that potentially the adaptation has to be a little bit less, especially when it comes to taste. However, there is, cultural norms that do have to be respected. There is a way of doing business that needs to be, adapted to. However, people do not have to change, or brands do not have to change significantly in order to succeed.
Interesting. How would you say the restaurant industry compares to the rest of the world?
Well, I think what I said earlier. It's an incredible mix of cuisine and cultures, and that's what's very interesting. Also, it's evolved very, very quickly. It's evolved in a different timeline of the Western world, which quite makes it quite fascinating. And we've consulted around the globe, and consulting in the Middle East for food and beverage is actually quite fascinating because over the years it has evolved and grown. It started by importing QSR brands mainly from the US. I think the timings of the McDonald's and the Costa Coffees were right along the same timeline, and therefore we had a very big boom of fast food. Then the big international fine dining establishments started coming in. But what is quite interesting at this stage is that as the market matures, we find talent going into the Middle East and out and started exporting outside into the world, which what shows us is that the culture and the knowledge and the expertise of being able to create a concept, whether it's Middle Eastern or Italian or Mexican, this now exists within the GCC countries, and we have seen quite a few restaurants starting to be able to play on a global scale, expanding into London or New York or other countries across the world.
Yeah, that certainly is sort of the mark of a more mature market, is when they start exporting to the rest of the world. That's fascinating. So we had another question come in from Ken. I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah, no, neither do I.
How is the evolution of entertainment being adapted by locals? Let's talk about entertainment. Any thoughts,
Joe, you
Joe?
want to take it? Or?
Sure. So I think it's worth mentioning first the reintroduction of cinemas in KSA. I think in 2018, cinemas were reopened in KSA, and they're doing amazing performance in terms of sales. A lot of local cinema operators here in the UAE are expanding in KSA. It's worth mentioning also that part of the mega projects that are part of the vision, many entertainment clusters are being introduced, which will have a mix of water park and theme parks. Qiddiya, for one of the giga projects, is bringing Six Flags, which to the region, the first Six Flags to the region, and I think this is an amazing initiative by the government and by Saudi Arabia to keep the entertainment expenditure inside Saudi Arabia and not leading to a leakage outside it.
So
Yes,
go ahead.
No, please do.
Well, I just wanted to follow up with this idea of mega projects, which there's several in the region. What, just like high level, when you talk about a mega project, I think people outside of the region who aren't familiar, they don't get the scope of these. Maybe you could talk a little bit more to that.
Sure. Go ahead.
So the mega projects have started with the support of the government and with the Vision 2030 into expanding the quality of life and the growth of Saudi Arabia, creating it into a global tourist destination. And those mega projects, and we had that conversation, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, talking about NEOM and trying to find a state which is of the same size, but NEOM is very often compared with the size of Belgium, which means, there's quite a lot. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is why it's called a mega project, right? So they're taking a lot of virgin land into and really developing it into the future of the world and the future of Saudi Arabia, of course. And the vision of NEOM is the new future. It's what the new future could look like. Joe mentioned Qiddiya, which is also it's focused towards the capital of arts, entertainment, and sports. We then have the Red Sea Global, which is on the Red Sea, of course, and it's a little bit more focused on the tourists and the well-being. And then there's one more in Riyadh, which is the King Abdullah Financial District. So from the name says it's really one of the biggest developments with 8 million square meters of space. And so 80 million square feet. It really is, taking it forward. And, these are just a few, but there's a lot more coming forward. And they're all focusing into making life better for the population.
Yeah. Actually, James Trojino, which is the mountainous part of NEOM, it's the mountain region. They was elected as a destination to host the 2029 Asian Winter Games.
So you'll be able to ski in a ski resort. How close is that to sort of the center of population? Is it far away?
So the mountain region will be, I think, around 40 minutes from the line, which is the most populated part of NEOM, I would say.
Wow. So not that far away. Interesting. So we're all going to take our ski vacations to to the Middle East in the future, to Saudi Arabia. That's so interesting. Joe, I want to get into a little bit of examples of, if you can, new retail stores that are coming into the region right now. What are you seeing? What tenants are expanding?
Yeah, so I think historically, James, the GCC has always been famous for importing brands rather than exporting. And I mean, I think in Dubai specifically, you can find more than 80% of the brands, and we've been seeing a lot of the brands now coming to the region. We noticed that athleisure brands, with the increase of health and well-being awareness, are interested a lot from like international operators, and gym, yoga, Pilates, other fitness related are interested to come to the region. But one thing I would like to mention is the export of brands from the GCC, because some very famous brands popular in the world were actually originated from here. Many might have heard of Elie who has dressed many celebrities in Hollywood like Beyonce, Nicole Kidman, Kendall Jenner, opened his first workshop in Beirut in Lebanon in 1982 during the Civil War. And now he has offices in Paris and in Milan, and his fashion shows are attended by celebrities across the world. Another success story in the world of beauty and fragrances is Huda Kattan, who is originally Iraqi and is the founder of Huda Beauty, which now she's based out of Dubai but ships all over the world and sells her products in Sephora stores.
Wow. Yeah. So those are some great examples. Do you think that we can expect more, I mean, more chains coming into different regions from the Middle East? And obviously, yes, the answer is yes, but what are they? Do you think it's more fashion that we should expect, or kind of food, or what do you think?
I'll let Alexis shed more light on the food, but I would just like to mention that yes, mainly on fashion accessories. So we've been seeing an increase in local young entrepreneurs. The names might be familiar to the residents in the GCC here, like Andrea Wazen, Octane from Egypt, and Giving Moment. The concept is called Giving Moment, which is a sustainable brand that's being designed and manufactured in the UAE. All these brands are going global, but through online platform. They're not at this stage investing in brick and mortar. They're more or less on online. But Alexis can, I'm sure he can give more insights on the F&B side.
So thank you, Joe. So in the F&B, again, we were talking earlier about how the market has matured, and we've seen really a wide variety of cuisines coming out of Dubai or the Middle East. So the first move was on the third wave coffee, especially with Kuwait and Qatar being quite ahead of the curve. The Saudi Arabia is following very, very strongly on that side, and it's something that, because the coffee experience is very, very social around the Middle East, it's something that has the opportunity to grow. And it has grown very well and then started exporting towards other countries. We also have the fine dining environment, and some examples. We have Gaia, for example, a Greek restaurant that started in Dubai and now has just opened in Monaco. And I'm originally Greek, so I had to try it. And it's a very good Greek restaurant. You wouldn't expect it to start in Dubai and then move to Monaco, but it is very successful. We have Maine, a little bit of an American brasserie oyster bar, still very high end and very good, that has just moved into Mayfair. One other notable one is Al Fana. So Al Fana is actually very interesting because it is an Emirati cuisine and has opened into London, showcasing not just the talent of the Emirates, but also the cuisine and the culture.
So is the region sort of elevates into this sort of fine dining, sort of like like what you'd call like global cuisine? I think you mentioned that recently the Michelin Guide had expanded to the region. Did I get that right?
Yes, you absolutely did. So the Michelin Guide was first appeared and first gave out stars in the Middle East this year. in Dubai and Abu
Okay.
Dhabi this year. So
And does that, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, please. I already knew the next question, so please go have the question and I'll give you the answer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what is that? What's been the effect of that? Has it drawn more international attention to the food scene, do you think?
100%. So what is interesting with the Michelin Guide is that it doesn't visit everywhere. It chooses countries and cities to visit. It officially, it started in France and Europe. It grew throughout Europe. It took quite a while to even come to the US back in the days. And the fact that the Michelin Guide is choosing to come into the Middle East, it really showcases that the talent is there. And I don't know if you know, James, I did work in Michelin star restaurants in the kitchen for 6 years. And having those stars, it's not only a great achievement for the team of the restaurant, but it's also quite a bit of pressure in order to be able to hold it. So 3 Michelin star restaurants do get reevaluated every year. 2 Michelin usually get reevaluated every year. And then the one is up to the guides choosing. But that highlights that consistently that restaurant needs to be of the highest quality in order to be able to retain that recognition.
And in your experience, when a restaurant achieves a Michelin star, does that mean the bookings suddenly you can't get a table for 3 months?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've spoken with people who have, so Dubai got 1 and 2. So there were 2 restaurants with 2 Michelin stars, and then I haven't counted the ones, but there was 5 or 6 with 1. They saw was from the next day, the reservations jumped between 10 and 50%. So, absolutely, there is people that do follow the guide, trust the guide, and take the decision based on whether it's, the Michelin Guide or the Million Guide, which also came into the region this year.
That's so fascinating. We had another question come in. So we're seeing growing areas with more pedestrian, and I guess they mean like sort of like City Walk, which we would call like a lifestyle center, I guess, which is meant to have like an urban outdoor feel. Will we experience a decrease of indoor retail in the future? And I guess it's so hot in the Middle East. I don't know. Can you get away with it?
To be honest, I don't think it will have an impact on the footfall for indoor malls, because the indoor malls, the traditional and even the super regional indoor malls, are trying to reposition themselves to provide a certain experience that the lifestyle or the outdoor plazas are providing. However, during nice weather, during winter season in the region, F&B are performing really well when it comes to the outdoor shopping, outdoor plazas versus retail. So retail will continue to evolve indoor and inside shopping centers, and I think there's more potential for F&B in outdoor developments.
Yeah, it really depends on the reason of visit, right? It's, as you said, lifestyle, social. I think people want to be outside when they're socializing because, we work from home, we eat at home, we live at home. People want to get out. And especially in countries, and I'll include, Canada and areas of the US for exactly the opposite reason. When you get cabin fever over 6 months, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit cold or a little hot. You want to be outside.
I agree. So you think that there's a real opportunity for more outdoor, retail, food and beverage in the Middle East?
There's a great appetite for sure. Yeah. It really depends on the country and the city. We can't oversupply markets as well. So it really depends on strategic movements, but there's definitely a lot of appetite to be outside.
Interesting. Okay, we had another question come in, and I don't know what you think about that, but what about casino coming to UAE? Any thoughts on the impact of the trends around that?
To be honest, I think it's too soon to understand the impact and the trends, and maybe we should wait a little bit to see how it will impact. And based on that, I'm sure we'll be able to answer.
Right. Yeah. Okay. It's a new topic. All right. Well, understood. So we're running out of time, but before we go, I have to ask you each one more question. Alexis, I'll ask you first. I've never been to the region, but I will get there, I promise. When I come and visit you in Dubai, where you live, where's a restaurant that you think I should go to?
That's a great question. Thanks for putting me on the spot. I know you love your restaurants, so it has to be quite a careful one. But look,
anyone at all. Doesn't have to be your favorite. Just a place. Just name a place.
I think Al Fanaw is a great one because of the culture, as we were saying earlier. Potentially Three Fields, which is quite unique into Dubai, and it's a small Japanese restaurant on a fishing port that is absolutely great. And what's great about Three Fields is that you can't find it anywhere else but Dubai. So that's the restaurants I would choose.
And Joe, if I come and visit you, what shopping centers do you recommend I go to?
Shopping centers. I think definitely Dubai Mall. You must see Dubai Mall being the biggest mall in the world and seeing all the attractions there. But also, I would definitely take you to other places as well. My favorite, for example, destination in Dubai is Kite Beach, where you have a public beach, F&B restaurant, many activities there. So I'll take you there, James.
Excellent. Okay. I'm coming over. We'll do another show. We'll do a round two where we'll all be in the same room. Well, we're out of time. Joseph, Alexis, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a wonderful conversation, and it's probably getting close to your bedtime there in Dubai, right?
Yeah, thank you, James. That was really exciting, and we look forward to have you here in Dubai.
Okay, excellent. Thank you both.
Absolutely.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, James.
And for those of you who are watching live, you can download all of our research reports about retail real estate and a whole lot more over at jll.com. And we do more. We do a podcast. We do in-depth interviews with all kinds of interesting characters in the retail world, both in the US and around the world. The show's called Where We Buy. You can find it for download in whatever podcast app you like to use, or you can go to wherewebuy.show. If you're watching us right now on LinkedIn, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. I'm sorry, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, be sure to follow JLL Retail and you'll get all of our new stuff right there in your feed. We'll be back again very soon. We do live episodes pretty frequently on LinkedIn and YouTube, and make sure to follow us in those places to find out the latest and greatest from everything we know about retail. So, what did I learn about retail today? I learned a whole lot about how the Middle East is both not only importing, but now exporting restaurants and retail chains and fragrance brands and designers and all kinds of exciting stuff. And if you want to know more of everything that we know about retail, you can join us here again for our next episode.